It's wonderful to be here with you all. I am Haley Judd. This is Jen Albee. As I said, we come from Christ the King Parish, and we're going to be talking today about how we live out lifelong faith formation in our community. But before we do, I thought we would start by introducing ourselves, so you know a little bit about us before we talk a little bit more about our community. So I'll start. I am originally from Connecticut. I'm not sure if anybody else is from Connecticut. Yes, hi Connecticut people. I went to college at Gordon College in Massachusetts, and from there I found my way to Christ the King Parish, and I've been there ever since. 2.5 years ago, I married Andrew Judd. Some of you might know the Judds. I feel like they're very well known in this state. And 9 months ago, I had my first baby. I had a little girl named Noelle. I found out I was expecting on Christmas Day, so she's my little Christmas present, Noelle. And she'll be joining us later. Her dad's watching her right now while I share with you all, but she'll be here soon, so look out for that. And with that, I'll pass it over to Jen to tell us a little about herself.
Hi, good morning. So I'm Jen Albee, and that is my family up there. My husband is also named Andrew, and I have Cooper, Jack, Charlie, and Harry. I have 4 boys. It's a very busy, fun environment in my home. I'm from Rhode Island. Anyone from Rhode Island? No, I'm the lone Rhode Islander. That's all right. That's all right. So I'm from Rhode Island. My husband, we met in Boston, and he is from New Hampshire. So we moved to New Hampshire to continue his dental practice. So we're here, and we have been parishioners at Christ the King since before it was Christ the King. Haley's going to touch on how three churches became Christ the King, but we have been parishioners since our little one was baptized. Our first one was baptized, and we've been there ever since. I have been a staff member with Christ the King for nearly 2 years, so this is fairly new to me, so be kind. Thank you so much.
So I am Christ the King's coordinator of adult discipleship, and Jen is our coordinator of young disciples. Those are our titles, and I wanted to let you all know that we are both part-time workers. If you smushed us together, we would be one full-time person, but we're both part-time workers. And we both work in discipleship. That's sort of the common thread between what we do. And I feel like discipleship is one of these words that we can use in the church so often. It kind of means everything and nothing. So I wanted to clarify a little bit about what it is that we do. So we tend to work with people who are already followers of Christ to some degree. I know you all understand what that means, that people come from all different levels of faith. And we both came into our Catholicism a little later in life. We both were raised with some degree of faith. Jen had a major reversion later in her life, and I just felt like I didn't know that much growing up. I was missing out on so much theology, practices, liturgy. It just wasn't a huge part of my family's life. And so when we both found the richness of Catholicism, it changed our lives. And so we're really passionate about helping people find that richness, learn the traditions of our church, learn the practices of our church, fall in love, and come alive in their faith. As I know you've all experienced, we are sort of several generations into a lack of basic Catholic knowledge, right? We have several generations of people who truly don't know their faith. And so we're passionate about not only changing that and educating those people, but also breaking the cycle. We're really passionate about raising up our parents and training them to be the primary teachers of their kids and breaking this cycle of a lack of Catholic education. So that's a little bit about us and what we do. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about our church. So we are, as we said, Christ the King Parish. It was 3 churches, St. John's, Sacred Heart, and St. Peter's in Concord, that merged a little over 10 years ago to become Christ the King Parish. We have a school on our campus. St. John Regional School is on our campus. Shortly before the pandemic, we underwent major renovations of our church. So everything you see here, our beautiful interior, is brand new, and we are loving it. Our pastor is Father Rich Roberge, who's right there in the middle. Hi. And we have about 2,000 registered families and about 500 to 600 people attending on an average weekend right now. I'm sure some of you are familiar with those sort of sad numbers, registration versus attendance, but it's wonderful. We have wonderful parishioners. And the last thing I wanted to share about our community is that we are a divine renovation parish. Some of you may have read Father James Mallon's book, Divine Renovation, but we have been on the intentional path toward parish renewal for, I think, a little over 6 years now, working to move from being a maintenance-oriented parish to a mission-oriented parish. And we are always happy to talk more about that and what that looks like, but that is not our topic for today. Our topic for today is lifelong faith formation. How do we try to live out lifelong faith formation? And so before we get into the nitty-gritty of what it is that we do specifically in our community, I wanted to talk a little bit about the big picture. Before we get into our practices, I wanted to talk about 3 core principles that guide what we do at Christ the King. So the first principle I want to share with you all is simply the importance of lifelong faith formation. It is something that we put high importance on. I know you all have encountered the attitude of being done after confirmation, right? I graduated religious education. I don't need to learn anymore. I finished when I was 16. We're fighting against this attitude. And truthfully, hopefully you guys have seen this, but restored order helped us a little bit there because parents were coming to us saying, well, my kid's not done in 3rd grade. And we're like, yes, exactly, right? That was the point. No one was ever supposed to be done after confirmation. And so we are trying to place an importance on lifelong learning and growing in your faith. And we do that through our leaders, through our language, and through our culture. Father Rich never fails in his homilies to say, I'm still learning in the faith. There's always something that we can all learn. We're all supposed to continue to be growing in our faith. He is a great way of spreading that message, spreading it into our culture. And you'll see as we go through today other ways that we raise up this idea of lifelong faith formation in our leaders, in our language, and in our culture. But taking that a step further to our second principle, not only do we say that lifelong faith formation is important, but we actually place a priority on adult faith formation. And this can seem a little radical, but we place priority on our adult faith formation. They don't get the leftover, right? Adults don't get what's left of our time and resources. Hopefully that's seen by the fact that I even have a job, right? I coordinate adult discipleship because there is a priority on adults. And so I wanted to share with you guys, there's this document that the USCCB put out in 1999 called Our Hearts Were Burning Within Us. It's fantastic. Every time I read it, I get more and more excited about what I get to do. So I wanted to just share some of it with you in hopes of spreading a little bit of that fire that it lights in my heart as well. All about placing that priority on adults. So in the introduction, it says this: adult faith formation, by which people consciously grow in the life of Christ through experience, reflection, prayer, and study, must be the central task in this catechetical enterprise, becoming the axis around which revolves the catechesis of childhood and adolescence, as well as that of old age. To make this vision a reality, we, as the Catholic bishops of the United States, call the church in our country to a renewed commitment to adult faith formation, positioning it at the heart of our catechetical vision and practice. Later in the letter, it says this: we are convinced that the energy and resources we devote to adult faith formation will strengthen and invigorate all the charisms that adults receive and the activities they undertake in the church and in society to serve the gospel of Christ and the people of today. Every church ministry will be energized through a dynamic ministry of adult catechesis. Adult faith formation also benefits children and youth. An adult community whose faith is well-formed and lively will more effectively pass that faith on to the next generation. Moreover, the witness of adults actively continuing their own formation shows children and youth that growth in faith is lifelong and does not end upon reaching adulthood. For such reasons as these, the Church wisely and repeatedly insists that adult faith formation is essential to who we are and what we do as church, and must not be situated at the periphery of the Church's educational mission, but at its center. This document is truly fabulous. I cannot recommend it enough. But as we talk about this idea of placing the priority on adult faith formation, the last thing I want to add is that we really value putting forth quality content for our adults. That's a big part. If we're going to ask our adults to come out, we want to make their time worthwhile. So we do everything we can to make opportunities for them not only present, but good. And Jen's going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like for us. But then finally, our third core principle that guides what we do is that parents are the primary teachers of the faith, not us, but parents. And so we work hard to put them back in the driver's seat, to empower them to build their faith and to reinforce that we are second, right? They are first. And you'll see what that looks like for us at Christ the King. Which brings me to Emmaus. That is perhaps the biggest way we live out this mission at Christ the King. Emmaus is our religious education program. The name Emmaus, we changed our name a couple years ago to Emmaus. It comes from the story on the road to Emmaus, because at this program we seek to walk with one another, open up the scriptures together. We hope people's hearts burn within them and that they meet Jesus. That's what Emmaus is all about. But this is our central religious education program, and it is a whole community catechesis model. When the churches merged and there were 3 different religious education programs going on, Father Rich, I really think, had the foresight and the wisdom to desire a whole community catechesis model. And so it's been taking place at our parish, over 10 years now. It's been refined and tweaked over and over and over again into the Emmaus that we know today. We really struggled for many years with getting people who weren't just families. It used to be called, family faith formation. And this is a popular model nowadays in churches where parents and their kids come to learn and grow together. But we wanted to go beyond that and truly be whole community. So this program is for all disciples, people with kids, people without kids, everybody is invited. Our mission statement here is, Emmaus at Christ the King is a place where every disciple of Christ, of every age, can come and grow deeper in their Catholic faith and deeper in fellowship with their church community. And so Jen now is going to take some time to break down what our Emmaus program looks like.
So this silence is slightly scary. Can we just give Haley a round of applause? So Haley, I just have to point out, Haley is 10 years younger than I am, and her poise and sophistication always blows me away. I am not nearly as poised or as sophisticated, so we're going to have fun, okay? So I'm just going to take a step back, and I also read a document, you fancy lady. The General Directory for Catechesis states that because the baptized are called to grow and develop in the faith and its practice, the Church has the corresponding duty to provide them an apt catechesis. The right of each of the baptized to an adequate catechesis is also the right of the whole community of faith, which depends upon the teaching of the faith for its vitality and development. And so for me, who stepped on to Christ the King's staff and stepped into Emmaus when it was already essentially formed and had been going on for several years, this spoke to me as to this is our why. This is why we do this, and I think we do it really well. So a lot goes into our Emmaus program, our Emmaus Preparation. We have a team of awesome volunteers. We have table facilitators, and we have awesome catechists. And we meet with them about a week before our actual Emmaus sessions. So we meet with them and we go over our teaching. Our teaching comes from the Sophia Press curriculum, but we do tweak it a bit so it can fit our Emmaus model better. But it comes directly from the Catechism and from Sophia Press. And I create lessons for the children, so I am the coordinator of young disciples at Christ the King. So I create the lesson plans for the children, and Haley works on the teachings for the adults. So we meet with our team and we go over the teaching with the team. So they see it before everyone else. And it's sort of a preview for them so that way they're getting their teaching. So they're not going into our Emmaus weekend blind, but they're also allowed and encouraged to ask questions, give suggestions, share their opinions. So it's truly a team effort. Haley and I are not just standing out here alone doing this all by ourselves. We work closely with our catechists and facilitators, and we take their knowledge and their opinions, and we put it into the teachings. So we have that week where we meet with our catechists and our facilitators, and then about a week later, it's the actual Emmaus weekend. Okay, so with our Emmaus weekend, it used to be 3 days on the weekend. It was a Friday evening Emmaus session, there was a Saturday, and there was a Sunday. The Saturday attendance was a bit lacking. So when COVID hit, COVID messed everything up. But we cut out Saturday. So we have a Friday evening Emmaus session and a Sunday afternoon Emmaus session. And our Emmaus, last year, before I get into this year, last year we worked on the Creed. We covered the Creed. Sophia Press put out an Apostles' Creed curriculum. We tweaked it to fit the Nicene Creed, and we all know they're very, very similar with slight differences. But it worked beautifully. And this year we are working on Christian prayer. And we like to zhuzh it up a little bit. So Haley found this awesome quote from St. Therese of Lisieux, where St. Therese describes prayer as a surge of the heart. And so we titled our Emmaus this year for the 2022-23 Emmaus sessions, A Surge of the Heart, Understanding Prayer. And so again, we'll go straight from a family of faith through the Sophia Press curriculum through Christian prayer. So after that, that is part of the how we do it. But we also ask our parents. Our parents are required to stay with their children. It's not a drop and go kind of thing. Like I said, I am the coordinator of young disciples, so I work a lot on the sacraments, on reconciliation, on First Communion, and their confirmation. And it's the same model that I use. Parents are required to stay with their kids. When they're coming for sacrament prep, they stay with their kiddos and they learn along with them. And the same goes for Emmaus. And with sacrament prep, with our families who are receiving sacraments, they are also required to participate in Emmaus. And the point of that is to better infuse them into parish life. We all know that we have a lot of parents who come to us who have not really been practicing the faith and who come and say, I think my child's at the age that they should be receiving First Reconciliation. How do we do that? And they come and they receive the sacrament, but we also ask them to participate in Emmaus. We do get some pushback, but oftentimes we have parents who really end up loving it. And we have parents who end up coming back to Emmaus even after their children have received their sacraments of initiation. It's really kind of lovely. But I am getting ahead of myself a little bit. So with Emmaus, I'm going to invite you into... Nope, I'm not going to invite you there yet. Okay. So an average Emmaus meeting goes like this. You walk into our Parish Activity Center, and it's a room slightly smaller than this, and we have tables set up just like this. And there's a check-in table, so you walk in and you see either me or Haley, or both of us most of the time, and we check you in. We check in our parishioners. They receive a name tag, just like we did, and kiddos receive a little coloring page to keep them occupied for those first few minutes. And then we share a meal together. On Fridays, we order pizza for everyone, and we have our Kitchen Angels ministry, and they prepare a delicious salad to accompany the pizza. Obviously, before we share a meal, we have someone pray grace. It's usually Gus Planchet yelling at everyone to quiet down, and then he lovingly prays grace with everyone. So after that, there's about 25 minutes where we share a meal. During that 25 minutes, Haley or I will call our facilitators and our catechists aside just for a few moments to pray together, and also for any announcements, any specific announcements. Anything from, hey, there's crazy, eggs in your classrooms for this activity, to there's a new kiddo who's just joining. Make sure you're welcoming, make sure you kind of give them extra care and attention. Sometimes Haley's like, my baby's here, I have to run, so then I have to, take care of it. But it's good, it's all good. So after our announcements, we finish up our mealtime, and then we go right into our whole community activity. And that's about 15 minutes. And it has been anything from Bible trivia, and like I said, we worked on the Nicene Creed last year. We did a Nicene Creed scramble. During Vocations Awareness Month, we wrote letters to our seminarians. Every single one of our parishioners and the kiddos, they all wrote letters to their seminarians. And the responses that we got back were really, really lovely. What was the name of the...
He was just ordained.
Oh, okay. So Rory, Father Rory, he was just ordained, and he sent us this really lovely thank you video, which we then shared at our next Emmaus to show everyone that your letters do mean something, right? So after our opening activity, we then go into breaking off into classes. And so you can see there on the Friday Emmaus schedule how it's all broken down. But we break apart into, the kids go off to the classrooms. So like Haley said, our campus has an elementary school, St. John Regional School. And we are able to use some of those classrooms, and we're very thankful for that. So there's pre-K through first grade. They break off. There's second through third, fourth and fifth, and sixth through eighth. And with each of those groups, there's 2 catechists per group, and they take the kids off, and then we start our adult teaching. Now, the adult teaching is about 70 minutes long, but that 70 minutes is broken up into certain increments where there's time for an introductory teaching, and then there's time for the adults to have their table discussion. And then there's more of a bulk of a teaching, and again, more discussion. And then there's a conclusion and more discussion. And like Haley said, the teaching is high quality. There is a lot of time and energy that goes into Emmaus, and the teachings are high quality, but they're approachable. They come directly from the catechism, but they're not too heady. So anyone, whether you're a seasoned Catholic or a parent who isn't really practicing, we make it approachable. Haley does an awesome job at getting the proper theology in there, but also making it super inviting and easy to understand. So at the end, there's a conclusion, and then we invite. Well, we don't just randomly invite. Usually, there's a parishioner who has volunteered to be our witness. And they come and they speak about how God has moved in their lives. And these witness talks, even though they are usually 5 minutes long, they pack a punch. These personal stories of how God has moved in these people's lives often leave people in awe and in tears, and they're just really beautiful. And it's such a lovely time to share the faith in a very different way. Instead of this is how it's done, and this is what we do, and this is the catechism. It's someone speaking directly from their heart, and it's very moving, and it changes lives. So after our witness talk, also the witness talk is sometimes adult themed, so we don't have the children back yet, and we'll hold them off before they come in. But then the kiddos return, and 2 kids from each grade will come up and they will share what they've learned in their classrooms. It is often chaotic. It is often very funny. One little boy said that he was starting fires. He wasn't starting fires. He was just talking about the Holy Spirit, and it was awesome. It was frightening for a moment when he was talking about fire, but it was very cute and very funny. And everyone loves it. Everyone loves it. So once the kids return, they share their funny stories, and then it's we give any announcements. We usually have a slide up for our next teaching. The next month's teaching, the dates for the next month's teaching. We have any sort of parish announcements. And then it's dismissal. And we do ask our participants to just quickly clean up their tables. So that way, Sunday morning, we're not scrambling to clean everything up and get things going. But as I said in the beginning, I do the sacrament prep, and parents are required to join us at Emmaus. And as I said, we do get a lot of pushback. I was one of those parents. I wondered why do I have to, I've got sacrament prep and my kid goes to Catholic school, why do I also need to come here? And then when I came, a year later I became a volunteer catechist and just fell in love with it, and it just makes sense. So there's this great quote in the Catechism that says, "Family catechesis precedes, accompanies, and enriches other forms of instruction in the faith. Parents have the mission of teaching their children to pray and to discover their vocation as children of God." And in my sacrament prep program and in Emmaus, I try to drive that message home all the time. Pope Paul VI, he also said, "The role of parents in education is of such importance that it is almost impossible to provide an adequate substitute." And as much as I try to explain this to parents, some are just closed off, but some really open up and they kind of start to understand. We have several parents who gave me pushback, but we featured one recently in our Parish magazine who she came to Emmaus and her son was in sacrament prep and she started coming back to church again. And her faith was enlivened through her son receiving the sacraments. And they come to Emmaus now, even though he has received his sacraments of initiation. We have another woman who, she gave me such a hard time, but she left in tears. She left Emmaus in tears one evening because our message that night was exactly what she needed to hear. And it makes me emotional just thinking about it, because it's amazing how the Holy Spirit can truly move in people's hearts when they start to open up. So these stories of faith are really incredible, and they happen all over our church, but really with our involvement in Emmaus, how much we're involved and how much we see. I see so much of it at Emmaus. I think. Oh yes, I wanted to mention Zoom. I don't want to mention Zoom, actually. But I do think it's worth mentioning that when COVID hit, we switched to an online model. So everything that was done at Emmaus in person was then done online, except for the eating. Everyone was responsible for providing their own meals. We didn't deliver pizza to anyone or anything. But there was groups and group leaders, and we recorded the lessons beforehand and sent them out to the group leaders, who then watched it, shared it with their group, and then they would come together once every 2 weeks and have discussion about what they just learned. It was hard to create a model for the children. I mean, you don't want to stick a child in front of another screen after they've just done school, on the screens. So we focused on our adults, and we made it clear that our expectation was that they shared this in however way they could with their children. And when we did come back to a live model of Emmaus, we did keep part of the online model up and running, because we have some parishioners who couldn't participate in person, whether they're homebound or they were just, they had health issues because of COVID. They did not want to come in person. So we left that open, and we've created more recorded teachings, and we send it out to our group that is still online, and we share it that way. And so back to that first quote that I shared about providing apt catechesis. I believe that Emmaus not only provides that apt catechesis for our parishioners, but it also creates this environment where people are coming together in fellowship, and they create friendships and bonds from that. And really, that's what the Catholic Church is about. It's really about Jesus' love and how we share that with others. And I think we do that really well at Emmaus. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Haley.
Oh, you're so tall. So Emmaus is huge, as you've seen. It takes a lot of our time and effort, and it's a huge thing that our parish does. But there are certainly other ways that we create this lifelong faith formation, this culture of lifelong faith formation. So I just wanted to briefly share some other things that are happening. Obviously, we have other offerings. We offer discipleship courses for our adults that vary, always trying to think, what do people want? What do people need? What hole is there to fill? We have a men's and a women's ministry that are just wonderful, and bringing people in for fellowship and discipleship. But more than that, it's also, as I said, it's in our language. And so I just wanted to give you a couple of examples of how lifelong faith formation is in our language. This just took place at our parish this spring. We had something called the Discipleship Challenge. And so we asked people to think about the next year of their lives and commit to grow in discipleship in one of the following ways, or another way. They could certainly come up with their own. We're not tracking this or anything. It's just one way that we are saying lifelong faith formation is important. How are you going to grow in your faith in the next year? Jen briefly mentioned, but we also have a parish magazine. We moved away from doing a weekly bulletin, and we have a parish magazine. And this magazine has bulletin information, but it also has catechesis. There are articles in there on Catholic theology, on how to live your faith, stories of our parishioners and the walk that they're having with God. And so this was our June edition of our sort of parish magazine. As I think about creating a culture of lifelong faith formation, something that really stood out as I wrap up is, meeting our adults where they are. And so Jen talked about how we went at home. When our adults were at home, we went into their homes. And even now, we realized in doing that, we had so many adults join Emmaus who had never done it before, and now are coming in person. But we also realize we have adults who are homebound, who are sick, who can't come in person, and so we continue to meet them over Zoom. Something else we've done is offer childcare. Those are Jen's children, along with some other. I did childcare for one of our Alpha sessions a couple years ago and got to know Jen's kids really well. But yeah, what are your parents not able to come because of their children, and how can we work past that obstacle? What days and times of the week will work best for our adults? What different levels are they at? Does your community need a high-level theology class because people are knowledgeable and hungering for more? Or do they need something more basic? Do you need to offer something about marriage? Where can we meet our adults where they are? And as I was thinking about sort of this talk and sharing what we do, I was speaking with my mother-in-law, who is a longtime parishioner of our community, and she put into words so well exactly what I think was on my heart, which she said, she's British. I'm not going to attempt to do a British accent, but she said, it's just expected, you know? And I think that really captures it. At Christ the King, we've been able to create a culture where it's expected that our adults would be involved, would be growing in their faith, and would do more. It would seem odd not to. So anyway, that is a little bit about what we believe at Christ the King, what we're doing, and we have some questions that I hope will be fruitful for you guys, because we know that every parish community is different. You have different resources, different staff, a different size, different demographics. So our suggestion is not that you do what we do, but that you find ways that work best for your community to promote lifelong faith formation. So should I turn it to the tables for some discussion? All right, well, turn in at your tables and you can have some discussion. Thank you all so much. Think of two things I forgot to say that I wanted to share. This past year, about half of the people who attended Emmaus were adults without children. And this continues to just lift my soul because we fought for so long to reach that demographic. So that's wonderful. And then Father Rich, when we were speaking with him about this presentation, he shared with us how one of the beauties of Emmaus is the conversation continues when they get home. And that's why everybody talks about the same topic on their level. And it just fuels conversation beyond our doors. But Jen is going to walk around with a mic, and we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have. Oh.
So does the stage of evangelization happen by chance or coincidentally during the Emmaus weekends, or is there an evangelization phase before the catechetical events begin?
That's a great question. So we, at Christ the King, we, as our primary evangelization tool, put on the Alpha program that I'm sure you guys have heard of. So Emmaus is geared toward discipleship and catechesis, but specifically as the one who prepares the lessons for the adults, it's a delicate balance, right? I go into every lesson thinking about the adult there who doesn't even know if they believe God is real, but also the adult there who, you know, is a faithful practicing person and, you know, wants to learn more about their faith. So it's a delicate balance, but I would say that the tool of Emmaus is an evangelization, but it has worked in that capacity before. The mom that Jen was talking about who came to us crying, that session was on the Holy Spirit. And, you know, I think that was a topic that lent itself more to evangelization, and we took some time for prayer, and her heart was moved, and she felt the Spirit, and it was powerful. So it's sort of a balance. I hope that answered your question. Did you have anything to add, Jen? Yes. Oh, right there.
I'm wondering what your time frame for the Sunday morning is. You offer Friday night and Sunday morning.
Right.
So what's the time frame for the Sunday morning?
I believe it's 12 to 3-ish. And I think we're going to shrink it a little bit because people have been saying it's a little long. But
it's Sunday afternoon.
Right, Sunday afternoon. So there's an 11 o'clock service, and we gather right after and have a meal. But not everybody comes from the service, obviously, and we go till about 3. Although I think we're going to cut it to 2:30.
And then is it like a potluck meal or just the parish?
So we have a wonderful volunteer who puts on a brunch for us.
And the parish pays for the meal?
Yes. Yep. The Saturday session that we canceled used to be a potluck, and people did contribute. It just, for some reason, Saturday night, the people didn't really come. So, yeah. Any other questions? Oh, there's another one.
You mentioned your K through 8th or preschool through 8th grade students and your adults. What about your high school students?
Such a good question. We have not found the secret sauce for clicking Emmaus with high school. We've tried a couple different things. We've tried having a high school table at Emmaus so they hear the same teaching as the adults, but discuss it with their peers. We've tried, they come for the meal and then sort of go off and do their own classroom thing on the same topic. We've tried, they come for the meal. What they're doing right now is our high school youth ministry, they come for the meal and then they just do something unrelated to Emmaus. But we actually have a number of high schoolers who have started just staying. They just sit, they come for the adult content, they sit with the adults and they have the discussion. But those really are teens who are more faithful and involved and, have a good relationship with their church and their parents and want to be there. There's nothing that we cover in the adult portion that they couldn't hear, but it's not targeted for them. But I would say that is one of our weaknesses in Emmaus. We have not found the best solution, and we don't currently have a youth minister at Christ the King, so there's a little bit of a gap there. Father Rich wants to add something.
So we do have a youth alpha, and youth alpha is really, really good in helping some of our youth to start connecting more realistically with the parish, and then some of them will come to Emmaus with their folks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Oh.
Who teaches your adult classes every month? Is it the same people, or?
It is, as of now, it's sort of an ongoing conversation of who can lead those teachings, because it's a lot to ask of someone. So the clergy do, Father Rich and our Deacon Winton DeRosa, they do. I started teaching them, Jen has taught them, and we are sort of always mulling the question of, do we take that beyond the staff? Are there parishioners who are gifted enough and we trust enough to get up and speak? But even when other people teach, I sort of am drafting the theology behind what needs to be taught so that they can adapt it in their teaching. So, yes.
And when do you meet? When does your sacramental prep classes meet?
We meet once a month. It's not the same weekend as the Emmaus weekend. We meet on a Saturday morning. Mm-hmm.
Do you do anything else supplementary for the families in Emmaus? Do they have like a workbook that they use at home, or is it just the weekends?
Yes, so that's what the Sophia Press resource is really wonderful for, and we're still figuring it out because this was our first year using it, and we use some of what's in it in the classrooms, and some of it is sort of left to do at home. And so this year we've actually moved Emmaus, and it's going to be the first weekend of the month every month, and the idea is you come, you get your opening teaching, we all gather, and then throughout that month at home you work on that topic at home in your workbooks. And we are trying to discern what the adult side of that is going to be. So the kids and the families, this is what you guys are going to work through. What are our adults going to be working on until we gather again? That is something I need to figure out.
Are the Friday and Sunday sessions would you come to both, or?
No, yes.
Just
same thing
options?
twice, and they can swap. So it's just whatever works for you that weekend, come to.
And I was just really interested in the last question, because I think I want to know how people reach out to their adults to find out what they need.
Yeah, so at, our parish, I think a big part of this is just, being around your people. I know that people feel very open talking to me about their complaints and hopes and dreams for the parish, right? So I get an earful from both the family that I married into that's involved, but also a lot of other people feel open talking to me about what they need. But, focus groups, going to your leaders to talk to people that they interact with. There's a lot of different ways that we do that, but I'm sure you guys came up with some good ideas too.
How do you pay for the pizza?
Yes, well, we do charge for Emmaus. We should have said that. We charge for Emmaus, and we have actually increased the charge in the time that I've been at Christ the King, because I felt like it was something substantial, that it's not unreasonable. I think it's like $40 a person or something for a year, and you get 8 meals and teaching and all sorts of wonderful stuff. But we do try to cover our costs as best as we can. The other thing that I'll say is that we have a parishioner who owns a pizza place down the road, so we get a little discount. So go out and convert the owners of pizza places. That's my recommendation. But yes, we do charge for Emmaus, and there is like registration and everything, because it's worthwhile. We think it's worth their money. I always find that if I pay for something too, I'm more likely to go. So I want to hit that sweet spot of we always offer scholarships. We never want costs to be a burden to anyone, but I want you to think, I did pay for that. I should probably go. So that helps me with workout classes. I don't know about anyone else. All right. Well, thank you all so much. We're here for the rest of the day, so we're happy to talk more. And we totally should have brought business cards, but we'd be happy to give you. Oh, Jen has business cards. She's on top of it. But we're happy to give you our contact information and call or email with any questions that you have. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Jen and Haley. I'm sure everybody would agree that it was enlightening and inspiring and uplifting, right? And possible. And possible. And Mary Ellen and I were just mentioning, you have to think of your parish as more than just those people on the books. There might be a pizza place in your geography. The person is not a parishioner, but would be happy to give you a discount on pizza. You just need to go talk to them. They're there, so they don't come to church. That's okay. Maybe they will when they bring the pizza. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then come back for our second presentation. Thank you.